What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the after credit scene for our episode 2 forecast and predictions for Ms. Marvel. Got a whole lot of stuff to talk about. Going to make some pretty bold predictions moving forward with the entire series here. Didn't get a chance to make an Easter egg video like I normally do. Sometimes when life gets busy, full-time job gets busy, sometimes the content suffers, and I apologize for that. There was a ton of Easter eggs in episode 1. There's plenty of good videos out there from a lot of other quality YouTubers that you can find all kinds of Easter eggs from the Avengers Con, Kamala's room, the school, all the billboards at school. But one in particular I want to talk about that I found that has some, I think, some pretty far-reaching implications. It's where we're going to start our predictions. When Kamala puts on the bracelet, she's kind of transported to this other world to begin with. And there's these people standing there that I thought were Watchers to begin with. Primarily because in the What If series, the way that the Watcher teleports himself from one reality to another, or from one universe to another, is with this crystalline-looking teleporting thing, similar to what you saw America Chavez use in Doctor Strange. But upon further investigation there, if you go frame by frame, as Kamala flips back out of that world, you can see a tree, a couple of trees in the background. And if you look at the characters a little more closely, there's some holding spears and things like that. I think that somehow Kamala got transported to the ancestral plane that we see in Black Panther. The purple is kind of a giveaway to that too. But not only that, but combine that with the trailers that have shown us Kamala fighting with someone that looks like they're from the Dora Milaje. I think there's a heavy Wakandan connection somewhere in this story. And I would be willing to bet it's that bracelet. I bet you it's vibranium. It's got some kind of tech that allows some kind of shield technology or something like that that also has powers. And somehow it's going to get back to the Wakandans. Maybe it's sending off a signal or something. I've had some people say it kind of gave them 10 Rings vibes. Maybe something like that as well. It has some kind of cosmic connection. But it could still be Wakandan in nature, and that's how they get involved. I'm almost 100% certain that I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that's what's going on here. But because of that, it makes for a much deeper story, connects the story to some other characters within the MCU, and really raises the stakes of my next prediction here, which is a lot of these worlds are going to start colliding. Kamala has these powers. She has friends at school. She's really wanting to get involved in American culture, specifically Avengers and superheroes. But her Pakistani heritage and her family's traditional upbringing and parentage is really going to start butting some heads. And her mother has said it. The counselor said it at school, is you got to figure out who you want to be and how you're going to mesh these two things. And are you going to abandon your family and those traditions to be wholly this, or is there a way you can mesh those? And I think we've seen some teases of that in the way that her costume comes to be, where she's not all Captain Marvel and she's not all the Pakistani robes, but she's kind of got some of those different aspects to it. I think that's going to be really interesting to see how these worlds start colliding and who ends up on what side of this fight. Her brother was an interesting character, really an advocate for her, but really trying to bridge that gap between both of those worlds. In addition to Kamala feeling like she is being kind of held down simply because she's a girl. And so all of those things are really going to play into it, on top of the fact that she's a teenager and her parents are trying to figure out what responsibilities they can give her and what power, just as a young girl becoming an adult, she is allowed to have in terms of responsibilities and things, is really going to play into it. Add on top of that the fact that she is now becoming a superhero, and that's a whole different level that no teenager should ever have to deal with, but now she is. And so it's very, very complex, and they have an opportunity to really thread this very beautifully and layer these metaphors in a way that is just really complex and interesting, and I really hope they do. On top of that, some of these conversations reminded me of Vision having a conversation with the Avengers in Captain America Civil War, where he says in the 7 or 8 years since Tony Stark introduced himself as Iron Man, the number of encounters with villains and powered people has grown exponentially. And he makes the comment that power invites challenge, that there's a lot of things out there that whenever you introduce a hero like this, that somebody out there is going to challenge that power. And who is that person going to be? Is it just going to be a lot of internal conflict? Is it going to be a lot of stuff that she struggles with on a local level? Or is there something bigger at play here that gets introduced, not necessarily that she fights alone, because I think it's a lot to go from an origin story to a major big bad, especially for a teenage girl in this story. I think there's enough that they can deal with. But to go to an introduction of a big bad that ends up getting thrown into the Marvels series, somehow that connects these characters in a way that's much bigger than just, oh, well, they are all somehow have the name Marvel, or they all have some cosmic looking powers. I think there's something bigger there. Near the end of this series, I think the way it's gonna end somehow, and it would really be a nice metaphor for a coming of age tale from a young girl trying to figure out where her power lies and who she's gonna be, into a young adult that says, I've had these powers with me the whole time. I've had this ability with me the whole time, in the form of confidence and being a person that commands their own destiny. I think it would be really interesting to get away from the Wakandan bracelet, the cosmic bracelet or whatever, that maybe somebody comes and confiscates that, and we get some shot at the end where Kamala realizes that she's had this power in her the whole time, similar to the way that Monica Rambeau had her powers in WandaVision, that it was something that changed her completely, not just a one-time thing. So that remains to be seen, but they've got to connect these stories right here with not just a standalone origin story, but they've got to connect them with the Marvels movie that's coming up. Moving on from that, because there's so many characters and so many things going on, I wanted to highlight one in particular, and we need to talk about Bruno. Bruno is one of my favorite characters outside of Kamala's brother, who is just a really endearing and affectionate guy. But I love that Bruno was on her side when she forgot the gloves in the bathroom. He wasn't super upset about it. It would be easy to manufacture drama there and all of a sudden say, well, you're not my friend anymore, and you forgot about me, and I feel so bad, and make it about him. And I'm glad that they wrote this guy this way. And it also made me think, gave me some Ned Leeds vibes, guy in the chair vibes. So I really liked that. You know, he's got the tech savvy. He's going to be somebody that's really an advocate for her, and I hope that they keep him that advocate and don't somehow strain that relationship because she has powers, and that she pulls away from him somehow. I liked that they kind of hinted that there's a deeper relationship with the two, but they didn't go full romantic relationship, and I hope they kind of keep that tension, but they don't ever make it something that is romantic in nature, because I think Kamala's story is unique enough and empowering enough on its own to not throw in some kind of the man has to come and help save the day type story. In that regard, that's why I've said there's either going to be sparks here, it's going to be a really dynamic, charismatic relationship, or there's going to be some strain and it's going to be difficult. Same goes with the school bullies and damage control. Are they going to embrace her and act like Flash Thompson, where Peter Parker's been my friend the whole time? Or are they going to try to bully her even further, and she's going to have to learn how to control her powers and not lash out in a way that would sully her powers? Damage control, by extension, they are 50-50 on whether or not they're good or bad. I think they're trying to do good. I think they're trying to follow the law and deal with this superhero not uprising, but this groundswell of different characters. But with Adrian Toomes, they came in to take over the salvage operation from him after the Avengers movie that was at the beginning of Spider-Man Homecoming, and he ends up going bankrupt because even though they're trying to come in and take these things and deal with these things, they're also putting people out of business, and it's causing unintended consequences. And so 50-50 here. I'm interested to see how this goes, but I don't think it's going to end up just glossing over. There's going to be a lot of stuff here, especially because they gave it to you in an after credit scene, and she's going to maybe Kamala has to do some running away from these guys. It'd be an interesting way to introduce AIM that we saw in Iron Man 3 back into the story. Those guys end up becoming some pretty sinister guys in the future. It would kind of fit my introduce the big bad but don't actually use the big bad storyline here. And perhaps AIM is working with damage control as kind of consultants about to deal with what's going on, consultants on the different types of tech and letting them use some tech, and you find out that these guys are actually willing to use some of these things to their own benefit or for their own gains, and they end up actually being bad guys. So that remains to be seen, but I think it's a possibility. One big cameo that I'm 75% sure is going to happen, Marvel possibly accidentally leaked or maybe intentionally in order to get some conversation going. In the credits, there was a line that said makeup artist for Miss Steinfeld. Now, there's no other actor or actress that's listed in the Miss Marvel series that could have that last name that's listed right now. Could always be somebody else, but it's a safe bet that it could be Haley Steinfeld, that the new iteration of Hawkeye is going to make an appearance, and it will be a really cool connection outside of Kamala just fangirling over some bigger named Avenger, that this version, Haley Steinfeld's version, comes across from New York, across the bay to Jersey City, and somehow is aware of what's going on, or offers up some advice, or just connects with Kamala somehow. I think that would be a really cool, and it would fit the story, and I think her character and her personality really kind of fit this already, so remains to be seen. At the end of this here, every episode, I'm going to put this at the end, because you need to watch for these threads. They've got to take this standalone origin story and connect it with some pretty deep threads to the Marvels movie that's coming out, so that you don't have to watch this show to get what's happening in the Marvels, but this is a good lead into it, and there's a lot of things that you can glean from it, so that if people want to, they can go back and watch this and they can learn where this character comes from. But watch for all these different threads as to how this character connects, some of the bad guys that are introduced, some of the different storylines, the different resources and people that pop up here, and their connections to the bigger story are really going to make some sense when you get into the Marvels movie. And so there's the opportunity to do some heavy lifting here in this show, but it still needs to kind of function as its standalone origin story, and right now I think it's doing a pretty good job of that. It's very unique. I love when Marvel takes chances on things and does some different things stylistically, and for the time being and so far, this show really has an air of being really exciting, and I look forward to it every week right now. Moon Knight was an excellent show, very well written, one of my favorites thus far, but Miss Marvel has that same kind of excitement, but it's fun and lighthearted. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they piece that together, and how you get to hear Kamala's inner dialogue dealing with all these things as a teenager is going to be really, really great. And as a youth minister, teen counseling, teen psychology, and all those kind of things are right up my alley. And so I'm really excited for how those things are going to play out. Curious to see what you guys think about it. Tell us what you think in the comments. As always, like and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so every time we drop new content, you'll be the first one to know about it. And check out some of our other content over here as well. We got plenty of things you can sink your teeth into. As always, when the next one drops, guys, we'll see you right back here. Later.